Imagine a book that feels like a poem, a hallucination and a raw aching hug all at once. A story so compact that you can read it in an afternoon, but so profound it haunts you for months. Hi, I'm Rudhima. Welcome to The Old Trunk. Today we're diving into a book that's been called a novella, a prose poem, a fable, and a literary experiment. That's Grief is a Thing with Feathers by Max Potter. And trust me, it is a breathtaking exploration of loss, love, and the messy road to healing. And it's one of the most unforgettable books I've read. So grab a cup of coffee or something that makes you cozy and let's spend some time unpacking this gem. No spoilers, just deep thoughts and a lot of love for Max Potter's craft. So, what's this book about? It's a story of a family shattered by a sudden loss. We follow a father and his two young sons in a London flat as they grapple with the loss of his wife and their mother. The grief is raw, disorienting, almost tangible, like a fog that settled over their lives. Into this broken world swoops a strange visitor, a talking crow, bold, chaotic, and brimming with wit and wisdom. This crow declares he's here to stay until the family no longer needs him, acting as a guide, a tormentor, and a mirror to their pain. A talking crow. Is this a fairy tale? A metaphor? A grief-fueled fever dream? He doesn't tell you what to think. The crow is a shapeshifter, part trickster, part philosopher, and his presence forces the family to confront their sorrows, their memories, and their hope for healing. The story unfolds through fragmented perspectives, less a linear plot and more a collage of emotions, images, and moments. It's funny, it's heartbreaking, and it's deeply human. What makes this story so special is how it captures both the universal weight of grief and the intimate specific details of this family's life. It's not just about loss, it's about how loss reshapes love, creativity, and connection. And it's all delivered in this stunning experimental package that feels like you're living inside the characters' hearts and minds. Let's dive into the major characters: Dad, the boys, and Crow. These three voices drive the story, and analyzing them in the context of grief shows just how brilliant Potter's storytelling is. Dad is a grieving widower, a Ted Hughes scholar, and a father trying to hold it together for his sons while unraveling inside. He is described as a scruffy romantic, which paints this vivid image of a bookish, slightly disheveled guy, probably with coffee stains on his notes and a flat in disarray. His voice is introspective and raw, filled with longing for his wife and anxiety about parenting alone. In the story, Dad's grief is overwhelming, like a storm he can't navigate. As a scholar obsessed with Ted Hughes' Crow poetry, he's steeped in ideas of chaos and survival. His sections reflect the fragmented thoughts, vivid memories, and a desperate need to process his pain through words. His work on a book called Ted Hughes' Crow on the Couch, a wild analysis, mirrors his own experiences. As if he's living the poetry he studies. Dad's journey is about finding language for the unspeakable, holding on to love even when it's excruciating. Dad's struggle hit me hard. His need to be strong for his kids while falling apart is so relatable. If you've ever had to juggle with your own pain with responsibility for others, you'll feel his story deeply. The boys, Dad's two young sons, are the second voice, often presented as a collective we. They're unnamed and their sections blend their perspectives into a childlike shared lens on grief. Their voices are playful, confused, sometimes angry, and occasionally profound, capturing how kids process big emotions through small, quirky details like flicking toothpaste on the mirror or inventing strange games. The boys embody the innocence and resilience of childhood, but also its fragility. Their grief is less cerebral than Dad's. It's physical, chaotic, lived through fights and rituals to keep their mum's memory alive. In the story, they're a grounding force, reminding us that grief isn't just an adult experience. Their sections contrast Crow's wild energy, showing the human everyday side of loss. They're not just passive victims, they're actively navigating with their new reality, which makes their voices so poignant. The boys broke my heart. Potter nails that mix of silliness and sorrow kids have, and it made me think about how we often overlook children's grief. Their sections add such tenderness to the story. And then there's Crow, the absolute star of the show. Crow is a larger than life talking bird who bursts into the family's life with a rich smell of decay and a wicked sense of humor. Inspired by Ted Hughes' Crow poetry, he's a mythical trickster, witty, crude, wise, and a little menacing. Crow is grief personified, wild, unpredictable, and impossible to control. In the story, he's a catalyst, shaking the family out of their numbness and forcing them to face their pain. His sections are a manic mix of poetry, humor, and philosophy, blurring the line between reality and metaphor. Is he real, a hallucination, a collective projection? Potter keeps it ambiguous, which makes Crow so powerful. He bridges the family's personal loss with the universal, mythic nature of grief, acting as both disruptor and healer. Crow is what makes this book unforgettable. He's hilarious, profound, and his voice leaps off the page. He captures how grief feels like an intrusive, chaotic force you can't escape, but must learn to coexist with. I couldn't get enough of him. These three voices, Dad's intellectual despair, the boy's childlike resilience, and Crow's mythic chaos, create a polyphonic narrative that feels like a conversation between grief's many faces. It's a brilliant way to tell the story, making every page vibrant and alive. Now let's talk about the symbolism in this masterpiece, because Potter layers the slim book with images and motifs that deepen its emotional and thematic impact. The symbols are subtle but powerful, woven into the story like threads in a tapestry. The most obvious symbol is Crow himself. Drawing from Ted Hughes' poetry, Crow is a complex figure, part trickster, part God, part embodiment of grief. He symbolizes the chaotic dual nature of loss, destructive yet transformative, painful yet necessary. His feathers, his smell of decay, his constant movement all evoke grief's messiness. How it lingers and shifts shape. Crow also represents creativity and storytelling, as he pushes Dad and the boys to reframe their pain through art and memory, much like Hughes used poetry to process his own losses. Feathers are a recurring motif, tied to the book's title, a nod to Emily Dickinson's Hope is a Thing with Feathers. Here, feathers symbolize both grief and healing. They're light, fleeting, and scattered, like the fragmented thoughts of the grieving family. But they also belong to Crow, a figure of resilience. Feathers falling or drifting in the narrative often mark moments of emotional release or transition, suggesting that grief, like feathers, can be carried away over time, even if it never fully disappears. The family's London flat is a potent symbol of their emotional state. It's described as cluttered, dark, and heavy with absence, mirroring the family's grief. As the story progresses, small changes in the flat, like light coming through a window or the boys tidying up, symbolize tentative steps toward healing. The flat is both a cage and a sanctuary, reflecting how grief confines but also holds space for love and memory. Books, especially like Ted Hughes' poetry, are symbolic of the human need to make sense of chaos. Dad's work on Crow on the Couch and references to Dickinson and other poets suggest that literature is a lifeline, a way to articulate the inarticulable. Books symbolize the family's attempt to find meaning, even when grief resists it, and Potter uses them to show how art can be both a mirror and a balm. These symbolisms are so rich but never heavy handed. Potter trusts you to pick up on these layers, and it makes the book feel like a puzzle you want to keep solving. The crow and feathers especially stayed with me. There's such vivid images for something as abstract as grief. Let's move on to Potter's writing style, which is where this book becomes pure magic. Calling it just a novella doesn't do it justice. It's a hybrid of prose, poetry, and dramatic monologue. And every word is meticulously chosen. This book's structure is fragmented, with short sections, single line pages, and lots of white space. This mirrors the scattered, non-linear nature of grief. How thoughts break apart, how time warps. It's not always easy to follow, but it's immersive, pulling you into the characters' fractured minds. Potter's language is lyrical, visceral, and playful. You'll find gorgeous images like Crow's furry stink or Dad's memories of his wife's laugh, next to absurd, earthy humor. It's a balance of beauty and rawness that keeps you engaged. The poetic rhythm makes it feel like a song or a chant at times. Despite the heavy themes, the writing is funny, darkly humanly funny. Crow's crude quips and Dad's sarcastic jabs at well-meaning friends add levity. It captures how grief isn't just sad, it's absurd, frustrating, even ridiculous at times. And Potter leans into that. The style is steeped in references to Ted Hughes, Emily Dickinson, and other poets, adding an intellectual layer. The title's twist on Dickinson's poem sets the tone, and Hughes' Crow infuses the text with mythic energy. Even if you don't know these references, the allusions enrich the experience. Potter's style is bold, experimental, but never pretentious. The fragmentation could feel gimmicky, but it's so tied to the theme that it works. The blend of poetry, prose, and dialogue creates a rhythm that's both chaotic and musical. It's not for everyone. If you want a straightforward story, you might struggle, but for me, it's like reading a painting or a dream. It's emotional, sensory, and unforgettable. Before we dive into the book's connection to Ted Hughes, I want to share something personal. Ted Hughes is one of my favorite poets, and his work, especially the birthday letters, has been a comfort read for me. Much like Sylvia Plath's poetry, his raw mythic style speaks to me on a soul level, capturing the wildness of human emotion. That said, I know Hughes is a controversial figure in the literary circles, often criticized for his role in Sylvia Plath's life and death. As a reader, I've learned to separate the art from the artist. Hughes' personal flaws don't diminish the power of his words for me. And I admire Potter for engaging with his legacy so thoughtfully in his book. It's a testament to how literature can transcend the messiness of its creators. Now, let's talk about the Ted Hughes connection, because it's central to this book. Hughes' 1970 collection, Crow, from the life and songs of the Crow, written after Sylvia Plath's suicide, is a raw experimental work that uses the crow as a trickster figure, a symbol of grief, chaos, and survival. Potter draws heavily on this, making Crow a living character and Dad a Hughes scholar. This creates a meta layer, where Dad's academic obsession mirrors his personal grief, as if he stepped into Hughes' poetry. Hughes' Crow was his way of wrestling with loss, and Potter uses it to explore how art helps us survive grief. The absent mother in the story subtly echoes Plath's absence, and the two boys recall the children she left behind. Though Potter never makes this explicit, the connection adds depth for Hughes fans but doesn't exclude others. Crow's voice, part mythic, part human, channels Hughes' style but feels fresh, grounded in the family's intimate pain. Turning a poetic figure into a character is genius, and if you love poetry like I do, this book will thrill you. So, what's my take on it? It's a masterpiece, messy, challenging, and profoundly moving. The characters are unforgettable, the symbolism is rich, and Potter's writing is a revelation with poetic brilliance. It's not easy, it asks you to work for it, and that's part of its power. It doesn't just describe grief, it makes you feel it in all its raw, absurd, beautiful complexity. I first read this during a tough time, and it felt like a companion. It didn't give me answers, but it gave me space to feel the messiness of grief without judgment. That's what great literature does. It holds you through the dark. Who is this book for? This book is for fans of literary fiction, poetry, or experimental narratives. Think Ali Smith, Helen MacDonald, or Julian Barnes. It's perfect for anyone who's experienced loss or wants to explore grief's depths. If you need plot-driven stories or light reads, it might not click. It's short but intense, demanding your full attention. This book defies labels: novella, poem, fable, meditation. It's a reminder that grief is universal yet personal, and art can light the way forward. Max Potter has created something extraordinary, and I'll be rereading it for years to come. Drop a comment with your thoughts. Did Crow steal your heart? If you've read this book, or if it's on your TBR. If it's on your TBR, what drew you to it? I'm always hunting for recommendations, so share your favorite literary novels or books about grief below. Let's keep the bookish love going. If you liked my take on this, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and press that bell so that you don't miss any videos that I upload. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive. It's a book that touched my heart, and I hope you'll give it a read. Check the description for links to grab this book if you're curious. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay happy. Thanks for watching. Lots of love. Bye bye.